How you doing, man? Can you hear me? I can't hear you though. You gotta turn your mic up.
I did that last time. The whole muting while you're talking thing is not good in broadcast. So you're already in. I already did the tee up and they didn't hear it. So this is Zack Hawkins working hard for the people of North Carolina, District 31 in Durham, class of 04 from the North Carolina Central University. What's up, Zack Hawkins?
Hey, what's happening, man? Thank you for having me. Like I told you before, this is a genius idea. Eagles supporting the Eagles and allowing us to tell those stories. Because as you mentioned before, people being across the country need to know what Eagles are doing and how all of us are really out here flying high.
Absolutely. Zack, how did NCCU find you?
An NCCU Eagle recommended that I go to NCCU because I grew up in Eastern North Carolina and was looking for after Elizabeth City was looking to continue my studies because I wanted to be in a place that was supportive of Black and brown folks that had a history of being in leadership across all paths and to be in Durham in the triangle, to be completely honest, and all the opportunities that existed because I came in as a biology major and wanted to be a professor. And so this was a perfect place. And once I got there, I'll never forget my first day. It was I think it was a 10:40 break, and I was in love since then.
I think it's so genius that NCCU has a 10:40 break, and people don't know that at North Carolina Central University, 10:40 on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10:40 to 11:35. There are no classes on the yard. So clearly that opens up the campus to campus organizations and step shows and there's all kind of activities. So you're going to hear a lot of Eagles talk about 10:40 break being special because for 4 years, that was the time that we got to, take a break. So I love that. So great. Talk about your experience now, because you're currently a state representative in North Carolina. How is that? We're so proud of you, Zack. This is amazing. I mean,
man, I appreciate it.
This is incredible, man. Tell us about your journey to this, Mickey Michelle, and all of that. Please tell us.
Yeah, no. That's I'm glad you brought his name up because he's a double Eagle. He graduated in the 1950s and then again in 1964 with Maynard Jackson was his law classmate. And so think about that class, that graduating class with two people who would literally go on to change their respective state, and just so much legacy. And so for me, as soon as when I got to Durham, brought my young family was with me, and started classes, and again I was on my path to becoming a professor. I because of NCCU had gotten into 2 PhD programs, but as I started to evaluate what really was important, I mean, being in the classroom and teaching students and doing research was, it was my life's dream. But, after when my son, who's now 18, was a 7-month-old boy, he had his arm broken in daycare. And at that time, I didn't know who to turn to, what to do. But what people told me was, get involved. And so I showed up and just kept showing up at David Price's door, started getting involved in the Young Democrats of North Carolina, met folks like you, started to get involved in the campus. I'll never forget, we had some 800 students marching down to Hillside because the Board of Elections had moved the location from NCCU on campus, and we made a riot about it. And the chancellor was there, and so it goes back to those kinds of activities that NCCU helped to shape, and the opportunities that existed, honestly, because people were willing to mentor me because I was in school there or because I was an alum. And as I was doing that work, I started to go statewide, and so I had this opportunity to really see statewide policy, platform, presidential candidates, I ended up becoming president of the Young Democrats of North Carolina, only the second African American after another Eagle, Courtney Crowder, became the first.
Come on, Courtney.
Yep, Courtney. He's a little older. But that path, allowed me, to see, to meet a young president, young Senator Obama, and later on work for his organization. One of the things I think that was pivotal was after 2008, 2009, I decided to get re-involved at the state Democratic Party after I worked for the Obama organization, and it ended up being second and first vice chair. So we were in a tough spot, and people like Mickey, he was there, and he started slowly but surely, sort of mentoring and pulling me in and inviting me to do different things. Using sort of his network and connections. Larry Hall, who's another person that's connected to the university, to help mold and shape me so that I was ready to start supporting HBCUs through my voice, right? Making sure that when we started the minority caucus for the Young Democrats, that we pulled in NCCU folks, right? So that we could advocate. And so when he started to think about retirement, that's when our real conversation started about 2 And so I just stayed, under his wing, listening to him, and he still mentors me today, because when you have somebody that was the longest serving, one of the best legislators in the state of North Carolina, longest serving, in any chamber, you have to give it up for that. And NCCU has benefited greatly from his long-standing stature, but not only that. There, the BBRI, all the research dollars that have come because he was senior chair of appropriations. And so that means if the money didn't move, if he didn't say yes, that's how much power an Eagle had over the state's purse strings. And so people ask me if I would be in this position if I wasn't an Eagle, and I say no, flat out. And so I think that this, again, when you have Jeannie Lucas, who since passed, that was there. She was a monster in the Senate, and has still again left her legacy. It's just it's a really proud place to be in, and people hold it in really high regard. And I'm just glad to be able to honestly stand up sometimes and shoot down those few Aggies that are in there.
Do it powerfully, Zach.
Powerfully, yes.
So I mean, I'm in New York, so I see and hear from a different lens, but I'm so grateful for social media. And what I want to acknowledge you for is what you do very well is you connect the world to North Carolina, right. By the breakdown show that you do. The way that you engage on social media is very educational, very inclusive. I feel like that's what we need. That's why I'm doing this, because people all over get to know who North Carolina Central University is, because we're engaging using innovative techniques. How's the breakdown going, and what's next for you?
Yeah. Well, I think and COVID-19 is to thank, right, for that, because it was really it had been on the minds of my team, and again, so many other people had started to use their sort of virtual platform. But Angelique Stalling, who's another Eagle, on my team, has been saying, "Gosh, you really need to do this, Facebook Live." And when COVID sort of came, it gave us the opportunity. And for me, what's so important is that I like structure. So you like to lay things out and make sure that we're engaging the local community, but like you said, informing people in just a conversation. And so I think we're almost 28, 29 episodes in, and the people that I've talked to, the information that's been shared, the relationships I've had a chance to build on a range of topics that people normally would not see, because people, honestly, they like this. They like people having a conversation. They do not like the talking heads that are on CNN. They want to make sure that they can relate to it, and that's what we bring. And so we're the next for the breakdowns. We're about to go into hardcore political season. So one of the things for me is breaking the majority and making sure that I get more Democrats in the legislature. And so we're about to pivot to showcasing the talent all around the state of all the candidates that we believe who can win in November. And when you talk about exposure, some of these candidates are not known outside of their region. And so you never know what you might say to get someone to give you money or volunteer for you. If you're in Western North Carolina, somebody in Greenville might want to give you money, right? Or you might build an ally. But I think it's my duty to use that platform to make sure that other candidates and other issues are really getting out there. And I think after the election season, one of the things that we're going to use the breakdown for is to really start to drill into, like the universities, right? Getting some presidents on and getting some companies on and thinking about how we can really start to solve some real issues, one of which is the education pipeline, right? We have issues of how many Black and brown teachers are in school or not, HBCU funding. We have, issues related to the environment. And I really think that that's the next iteration of the show so that people can find their place and then say, you know what, I care about this issue, and Zack and this conversation helped me find my place for advocacy and know exactly what to do to make a difference.
Absolutely. That's going to be genius. I think that's going to really support us as we are, 97 days?
97 days. Yeah, I mean, man, you talk about, for a lot of people, this is Christmas. People, they lose their minds during this time, and for good reason. And I know, our alumni are not any different. Everybody's been hit by COVID-19. I don't care who you are. 7 billion people across the planet, and then it's hit Black and brown communities. I think it's 22% of North Carolinians, make up that's the state population for Black folks, but 40% of the deaths and 40% of the cases are Black.
Yeah.
So, it's people have good reason and jobs and in healthcare. And so, I really hope that folks don't, not even talking about sort of the occupant of the White House. I think it's more important to think about what's happening in your local community, your state house and your state senate, because those are the folks who control the money that North Carolina Central gets, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not federal government.
Zack, what is the top 2, I'll give you, or 3 issues for your constituency? Durham is mostly Black, I guess, but what are the 3 areas that we need to be clear about?
Yeah. Well, the first one I will say is education. It is, I think COVID-19 has shown that we will never go back to an educational environment like we used to, right? And disproportionately, what people in my district are saying is all the effects of kids not being able to school are showcasing everything else, right? So kids who are hurt by the lack of support in our school system are hurting even more. So are we going to pay our teachers? Are we going to are we going to give pupils a better student experience by giving them more money per pupil? Are we going to make sure they have good buildings? Are we going to make sure that we are putting HBCUs on the teaching fellows list? What are we going to do to make sure there's parity in education, both K through 12 and higher ed? So I think that's the first thing they care about. The second thing, of course, is the economy and jobs. I mean, I think everybody feels that because everybody's a little nervous, right? What do I do? My job, may allow me to go virtual, it may not. A lot of folks are having to show up every day, whether they want to or not, because they have to put food on their family's table. And when you're in that situation, we need to think about, what's the pipeline of jobs that allows people to have access to healthcare. And so that's really the third one is healthcare. Because in North Carolina, 750,000 people don't have access to affordable health, and those are just the ones we know. And when our state government and the folks in the General Assembly will not allow us to expand Medicaid. It's free money. It's federal money. We've taken in so much other money. Why not take this? And so people in my district are overwhelmingly supportive of the Medicaid expansion, because again, the population that we have in Durham, a lot of folks need it, and not to mention, I think it's 10,000 jobs and a couple million, more than a couple $1 million that creates jobs that can't get exported. And so if we're thinking about all these things together, that's what's on their mind, right? Because everybody's in survival mode right now.
Yeah, and so interesting. Cooper, I think, matter of fact, I'm cleaning out my house here in Wilmington right now. And back in the day in high school, I was a part of Jim Hunt's gubernatorial.
Oh, I saw your throwbacks on Facebook. It was hilarious. So hilarious. Oh, you are a small dude, boy.
Yeah. I didn't know that Cooper has been around for a while.
Right.
And the way from the New York perspective, I'm just seeing these governors. I'm seeing how North Carolina is reacting, and we got Cooper's there. He's solid. He is doing right by the state. Yeah,
he's more than solid. So he started out as a legislator in the House of Representatives in the 80s, moved over to the Senate in the 90s, and ran for Attorney General in 2000. And was the Attorney General for 16 years in North Carolina. So, if you're doing the math at home, that's almost 30 years before you serve, potentially 2 terms as governor. And so he is one of the most prepared people and understands government in a way that has shown, right? Because you have the connections and you have the relationships to handle a pandemic, right? You have the team in place to ensure that when you say Plan B for schools, you can execute. And he's getting high marks from North Carolinians as well, right? People are solidly behind him, but I think people across the South are like, who is this guy? Because he's leading in the South where others, wanted to reopen really quickly, and it just wasn't the right move. And so places like Texas and Georgia are like, oh, let's reopen, and then they had to start reeling it back, right? And so now I'm more than happy, and to be honest, man, it doesn't always translate. So it's really good to see someone be able to grow through the system, and then still do well as governor, right? Because sometimes you see people go from one. It's like a recording artist going from indie to mainstream, and they don't translate, they don't necessarily pop. And he's been able to keep a good, solid team with a good, solid philosophy. That the thing that I think that's most impressive is that when you think about the fact that he's leading and doing things that could hurt him politically, right? These are not necessarily popular decisions, but people see that he's doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And to be honest, and I know people watching would think the same thing. That's refreshing, man.
Very much so.
That's refreshing to just have somebody. It's like, you know what? I don't agree with you, but I know you feel like you're doing the right thing, and I can stand behind it because it's not popular. You mean to tell me my kids ain't going to school for 9 more weeks? And you had to do the political calculation on that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And knowing that parents wouldn't be happy, you still made that move.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I want to go, and Cooper has some Eagles on his team. So
his chief of staff is an Eagle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and she's a Delta from NCCU. Absolutely. Christy Hammond.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing back NCCU, because I want to get your stake on where NCCU is going to be in the next, let's say 2 to 3 years. I know under the next administration, where is NCCU going to be? Where do you see us is going?
Yeah, the thing is that so Chancellor Akinley has Right now, he's on the board of directors. Just got added, I think, a year or so ago for the Research Triangle Park Foundation, which is huge. And what that does is it brings together the industry leaders and other chancellors in the area to talk about the forward movement of some of the most exciting work that's happening in the state. Right, you're talking about 300 amazing companies, biopharma. Like they're trying to reimagine RTP to become the Silicon Valley East.
Wow.
And so when you think about that, you can't divorce or take out NCCU in that equation. Not only because of the diverse talent pool, but just because it's made its mark in research. And so just recently we received, I think it was $1 to $2 million from state government to for COVID-19 research.
Yep.
And so that the BBRI and the work that it's doing is there. So where we're going, I think, in the next 3 to 5, is NCCU was lucky enough to make the early investments in the virtual space and online learning, and they got more money to do that. I believe that we're going to see an uptick in the number of students across the country that are going to be using NCCU in online. And if you're looking at other universities across the country that have mastered that, it sets you apart when people are willing to take your classes online and dedicate and choose you in that space because there's so many options. And as an HBCU, they really did that. I think secondly, when we're working hard, and they may not make the first cut, but hopefully eventually we'll get them sooner or later, is that we're trying to add an HBCU to the teaching fellows list. And a place like NCCU is perfect for that. And again, because of where we are, the legacy, and the strong School of Education, we need to either make sure that we build to have ourselves ready to be on that list, or hopefully we'll get on that first round. The other thing that I'll say about the university is, and I think all the alumni and everybody that's watching can take part in it, is that I think we'll undergo a huge transformation in the advocacy space. And what I mean by that is because you have I'm an Eagle, and then you have a few others that believe in HBCUs or are Eagles themselves. There, and I think people are going to, especially in the age of Black Lives Matter and all the work and all the disparity that we see, we're going to see NCCU get a good amount of money from state government. For example, one of the bills that was filed talks about HBCU parity, because we do have a PhD program, and so does North Carolina A&T State University, right? So there's money that supposed to come along with that we need to make sure they get. They're building and repair. Not to mention our new student center is going to set us apart, and it really will be a destination that not only will attract like what do you call those, traveling conventions and things like that, right? So we'll be more of a destination for people to come on campus and use it, not only outside of the region but inside Durham. And then of course the students will be able to enjoy the conference space and all that, right? And so I think that in the next 3 to 5, I think we're going to see a lot of expansion, because compared to our peers, the money has not come as much as it should have, but a lot of things were pointing in the right direction pre-COVID. So I think they'll continue. One last thing is that we're now in a partnership with UNC Chapel Hill, the law school, to help. It's a veterans law clinic. And so in the partnership, the money and the implementation will happen at NCCU, because it's a perfect, again, you have legal Eagles and students who are ready and just need to be trained. But I think our money had run out, and so that partnership at Carolina, they were like, well, it's better suited there. And so when we start thinking about what's best for the UNC system, North Carolina Central is going to win, because they have so many assets that have just been sort of underutilized. And the last thing I'll say is, of course, and we will see probably a small drop just because of COVID, and everybody will. But I think definitely in the next decade, we're going to see a very large enrollment. I absolutely believe that NCCU, from our athletics and our athletic prowess, I think will be there. And one thing I'm keeping my fingers crossed for is that we get one of those top 5 blue chip athletes, one and dones, to help us go to the big dance and get to the second or third round and win it all.
Indeed. Absolutely. I want to say I saw a great interview with my mentor and yours too. Wow, I just forgot her name. Brown, Minnie Fort Brown.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible interview. She talked about a couple of the points that you made as far as education and NCCU being such an opportunity space for the city of Durham, the state of North Carolina, and even the South in the United States. North Carolina Central is really
NCCU could solve one of the things that I got appointed to this task force to help diversify the teaching workforce. NCCU alone could solve, with the right support, could put a huge dent in the number of teachers that are of color in our classrooms. Right? Think about that. And so again, I think when we start talking about the jobs that are going to come out, and again the diverse workforce in the region, if you're a company in RTP, you're like, well, let me go to NCCU. Does that make sense? Let me have a partnership. And so that sort of Centennial campus, Millennial campus that's coming is going to drive so much public-private partnership that if people think they don't recognize the university now, you wait for the next 3 to 5. It's gonna be pretty ridiculous, but you'll be proud of it.
Well, we're going to leave it there. I'm so grateful for District 31 and State Representative Zack Hawkins, class of 04 from North Carolina Central University, for being with us today on NCCU Live. I'm just so grateful and so proud of you, Zack. Please continue to represent us and advocate and pull us along with you so we can support you. Thank you, Zack.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, bro.
Yes, sir. We'll be in touch.
All right. Bye-bye.
Man, Zack Hawkins from class of 04. That's my class. Grateful to see him. For any of the alumni who are watching, go to nccualumni.org to join the Alumni Association. And also, you can give a recurring gift to the university and put it in the annual fund. So just like Zack said, there is dollars that are available for the university. You can go to eaglesgive.com, give a recurring gift. You can put it wherever you want to if you don't have a preference, and put it in the annual fund. And also, if you have not yet updated your contact information, you can do that so easily at updatecontact.info. Tell us where you are. Tell us how you want to get information, and we'll make sure you get it. I'm Kian Brown from EAN, the Eagles Alumni Network. Well, take care of yourself. And remember that an Eagle is no common, ordinary barnyard fowl. Take care.